For more than a decade, FTI has strived to become the leader in the aftermarket performance transmission and converter industry. We've joined forces with McLeod Driveline Components under the leadership of Top Fuel Funny Car pilot Paul Lee, and now have a larger distribution network, more resources, and more power. Come see us in the pits and ask how you can join the FTI family. It's not cheating, it is the competitive edge.
It's time for an inside look at the most powerful motorsport on the planet. WFO Radio NHRA Nitro. This is WFO Radio.
Hey everybody, WFO Radio is back following the Amalie Oil NHRA Gatornationals, the first race of the 2023 NHRA Camping World Drag Racing season. I'm Joe Castello, and I was there, baby. It was awesome. A massive crowd Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Final eliminations, great victories. Matt Hagan goes back-to-back scrappers wins, and a victory that I think was kind of shocking to some folks. I think they had been given the underdog status at very least, and they go out there and they put it on the field. Coughlin Jr. wins to start the season, and Gaige Herrera, oh my goodness, this young man has won his first race from the number one qualifying position for Vance and Hines. We're going to get into all that. We'll talk a little bit about the top alcohol categories, the Lucas Oil Series, the fun, the Pep Boys call out, the Mission Foods Too Fast, Too Tasty Challenge. The fields are set. We know who's going to race in a couple of weeks out there in Arizona at the final race at Wild Horse Pass. It's going to be great. If you're watching your first show on WFO, we ask you to share the show. If you're a longtime viewer, we ask you to share as well, so all the fans of the NHRA can get up to speed on what the latest, greatest is, including the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart will be joining us just minutes from now. But your thoughts and your topics and your hot takes and all of that will be in the comment section. But first, I want to tell you about the people who make it possible for me to go WFO. This doesn't happen by accident. And Stan, I'm sorry, buddy. I'm sorry, Stan. But I got to have a couple of corporate sponsors, man. I got to have some people to pay the bills, because it doesn't work on just like good feelings. That doesn't work. Although our great Patreon audience, it does work on good feelings. Maybe you want to join the Patreons, Stan, right? You could just go to patreon.com/WFO radio, and it's only audience interaction. It's not as corporate. I want to say thanks to the folks at Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. Marvin Rodak, 817-924-6821. He is roasting up coffee right now, fresh per your order, ships it out. I get the full bean. It is great stuff. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School is in action as we speak. That's right. Adam Bastian, who is Matt Hartford's brother, is celebrating a birthday with a super gas course at Frank Hawley's as we speak. That is going on. You can do the same, or you can drive a dragster. Samtech.edu, the School of Automotive Machinists and Technology, can get your education in engine block programming, engine block machining, CNC programming, motorsport EFI tuning. They do it all down at samtech.edu. One of the big events of the weekend for the Gatornationals was BURNYZZ Speed Shop and the Fan Fest. And I'm very proud that we were pushing the heck out of it, and our audience showed up in force. I met of the thousands of people that came through the door, several of them came up to me and said they heard about it on WFO. They watched the show every week. They were excited to meet Josh, and they did. Huge autograph session. The whole world was there, and it blew us away, honestly. Not just BURNYZZ, but the whole property, the engine shop or the chassis shop or the paint and body shop, and like all the different areas in the facility, not just the showroom. BURNYZZ.com. Check out the website. Follow on social media. Phillips Connect, Smart Trailer Technology. If you're over the road, if you've got a fleet, you're definitely going to want to reach out to these guys so that you can update your trailers and you can know exactly what's going on with them wherever they go. Are they loaded or are they not loaded? Were they loaded and suddenly not loaded? Why? Where did that happen? Do you got a wheel bearing heating up? What's going on? Phillips-Connect.com. FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters. What a weekend for FTI with their FTI Pro Mod Showdown, of course, and all the success that they had in the .90 categories and Top Sportsman, Top Dragster, Pro Mod making consistent, reliable transmissions for very powerful race cars. FTI, Florida Transmission Incorporated. Someone emailed Alan Reinhart, which that really kind of makes sense. And we all felt a little bit of shame. But we're over it now. FTIperformance.com. The folks at Foggett also on board. They've got a contingency program. If you're in Division 2, you go see Todd Barton. But all over the country, folks are starting to use Foggett as their fogging spray, and it's saving the inside of their engines. It's helping with their firearms. It's helping to inhibit rust and corrosion. And it's one of those products where you buy it for one thing and you end up using it for 10 other things. So go to Foggett.com, get yourself a box or case, and keep it around the house for 100 different possible jobs. Total Seal Piston Rings, the leader in ring seal technology. We'll be out at the Total Seal headquarters following Phoenix, doing the show from there. Already got a confirmation from Eddie Granaccia, going to be on the show, and we're going to connect. But it's all an exercise in ring seal. I think, like Gainesville, biggest crowd ever in the history of the Gatornationals. That's what I'm saying. Trackside Tech Talk, biggest crowd in the history of the Trackside Tech Talk. Definitely. Friday at Gainesville. Saturday, a little less because people were stuck in the traffic, but it was spectacular. Learned a lot about ring seal. I had a celebrity, guest. Stan Mazzell was there. Just awesome stuff. TotalSeal.com if you need rings, if you need a ring, if you got a broken ring, you got to order one. You can do it all on the website, TotalSeal.com. Thank you to our sponsors. Appreciate all of you and the people who support WFO Radio. We're just getting started. Our first results show of the year. And let's bring on the voice of the NHRA. He called the action, Mr. Alan Reinhart. What's up, Alan? How are you? Where are you?
Oh, it's a secret. I'm in parts unknown.
Parts unknown, right? Except you're still on the East Coast because you're calling the action in South Georgia Motorsports Park as NHRA Division 2. They are going to have 3 races and a national event in before mid-March. Pretty amazing.
Yeah, it's cool. I'm actually at Proline Racing Engines. Eric Dillard had invited me to come up and see the place. I'm allowed at least in a few shops now and then, but that's pretty impressive operation that he's got going on here, and I'm glad that he invited me up and realized, I literally looked at my phone and went, oh man, I got like 3 minutes to do this. So I just ducked into the conference room and fired up my computer, and here we are.
Well, it's working great. Sounds great. Can hear the machines running in the background, but I think that adds ambiance. We got our listeners out there. We already got like 30 comments just saying WFO, the end of the winter break, right? We had some divisional results, but now we've got real Camping World Series, Nitro, Pro Stock Motorcycle. All the theory is out the window, and we have some actual fact to talk about.
Agreed. Yeah, it was a wild one. The only probably little glitch on the weekend was Friday night. That it got a little drizzly on Friday night, and we did not get to run the primetime qualifying session, but the 3 that we did run were all pretty impressive, and certainly Sunday was amazing.
Sunday was amazing. We had one little power failure, would put us a little bit behind, but in the grand scheme of things, at the Gatornationals, this being the first race of the season, so important, for me, A++. Super success. We could always go around and find something that, well, yeah, we lost this session, or so many people showed up that there was a little extra traffic than normal. But in general, I think the decision to make the Gatornationals the first race of the year was a great one.
I kept hearing about this traffic stuff. Never had an issue.
Yeah.
Never touched the brakes once when I was on my way to the track, and so I don't know. You couldn't prove that there was a traffic problem with me. And yeah, you can always find things. The one thing that I absolutely hated was that the sportsman racers ended up finishing after the pros, because that takes away 2 things that I really enjoy and that I think the fans really enjoy. One being the Parade of Champions, when the sportsmen have an opportunity to come down in front of the crowd, tell their story, get acknowledged. I hate when they don't get to do that. And the second one is that we then don't get to do the on-track winner circle with the pros, bringing the stage out and having the fans come out on the racetrack, because that's a great moment. I know that the racers enjoy it. I know that the fans enjoy it. So I hate the fact that we didn't get to do those 2, but we do sometimes have to make adjustments, especially live television on the big Fox network. I don't know anything official, but somebody told me there was, like 1.5 million viewers average over the thing leading into the NASCAR race. And all of that stuff is big. All of that stuff is very important for NHRA championship drag racing. And so if it comes at a price, then that's a price that we have to pay. I hate that we have to do it, but I certainly understand the whys.
Absolutely. And you're right, because I would have loved to have seen the visual of the stage out in front of the track, on the track, with the winners on the stage. And even if 5% came down to spend that moment with us, it would have been an amazing photograph that we would have seen forever. But you've seen the aerial shots. Loans was posting some aerial shots, which were great. And you know that this is my race, right? Like, I don't claim to know everything about everything, but I know the Gatornationals, and I know the crowds over the years since 1980, and I'm calling the Saturday crowd the biggest of all time. And someone is going to have to disprove me with some sort of fact. It's purely anecdotal, but I've never seen the rails, the fence lines, so dense, especially on the spectator side. Yeah, I know we took out a couple of grandstands a few years back, but those people were densely packed in there, both sides, a massive humanity showing up for this first race. Total sellout. They couldn't fit anybody else in there. The pits were packed. You could not move. That is a good sign for this race being in March, first race.
It is, and it's a good sign, that everybody was certainly ready to get back to it. I know that the South Florida fans were hungry for it after last year when they didn't get to see the full show. I know everybody up and down the East Coast was looking to get out with all the storms and the snow and stuff that's been happening up in the Northeast. We're looking to come down south. And so, yeah, it was, you couldn't have put a whole lot more people in there, I promise you. Saturday's crowd was massive. Sunday's was very strong as well. But as, you and I have talked about that, we've had this conversation for however many years we've been doing this now. Give us good weather, and we'll take it from there. And it wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold, aside from the Friday evening rain. It was just a perfect weekend for a drag race. Just enough breeze to keep the tire smoke off the starting line, and almost no on-track downtime, too. That was another thing that I think really led to it being such a great show. It was, wow, that was awesome. Send the next pair. Wow, that was awesome. Send the next pair. There wasn't a lot of downtime. There wasn't a lot of cleanup. There wasn't a lot of incidents. So, overall, it was just a tremendous event.
Yes, tremendous event. And it started off with the BURNYZZ Fan Fest, which I went down to. Josh, big supporter of WFO, and I was asked to go down there and just do a little MC work, and I wouldn't have missed it. And we were stunned, Alan, at, of course people were going to come, but Josh said they had 5,000 folks come through the doors over the course of the 3 hours. Massive autograph session. Garlitz, Force, Antron, Larry Dixon was there. Everybody was there, and I think we're going to do it again next year already. People are planning it. But that's how I knew this was going to be a huge event. Okay, if BURNYZZ, that's 50 minutes south, is packed with NHRA fans that are either coming north or coming south, or who knows what their plan was. A lot of international folks flew in from this, had some friends from Germany come in. That is what tipped me to the fact that this thing was going to be, off the charts.
Well, I think if you're a fan, that's an easy way to make a day of that. I think it'd be really interesting to find out how many of those people had been to Don Garlitz's museum that day. Because Ocala is a very friendly drive down from Gainesville. It's, you certainly don't have to take, a day and a half to schedule things. Just zip down there. It's a piece of cake. But that would be a perfect fan day for somebody that wants to come in a day early. Go down, check out Don Garlitz's museum, go over to the Fan Fest at BURNYZZ and just look at the operation that Josh has put together. I didn't make it down for that, but I have been there before, and it is a pretty impressive facility that he has there. You can obviously go online and see what kind of inventory he's got in the showroom, but to be there in person and see this stuff is amazing. So I'm glad that Josh did it. I'm glad that it was a success. I'm glad he's looking forward to doing it next year. And, he and Garlitz are buddies, so I'm sure that they can put something together to make a day of it, right? Go by and see Don Garlitz's place, and then come by and see the Fan Fest and meet the guys and do the things. There's not a whole lot better ways to kick off a big event than a day like that.
Garlitz's museum was rocking on Monday. It was rocking even in the rain. Place was packed. I swung by there on my way home. But let's get started with the Pep Boys Top Fuel All-Star Call-Out. I felt like that was a great way to start. Saturday racing. Just amazing matchups. The call outs. Brittany calls out Clay, is able to beat Clay, gets beaten by Josh, I believe, and Josh goes on to win it over Mike Salinas. And the Florida racer, to be able to announce, like, that's your guy. He's from Ocala. You got a Top Fuel team that's local. That's something special as well. And Josh Hart kind of announces, he and Ron Douglas with their new car, we're back. Last year, maybe some sophomore blues or sophomore jinx, which he didn't have a bad year, by the way. He runner-up twice. But that $80,000 going to be very helpful over the course of the season.
Yeah, and just the fact that we got to see the event, right? I mean, last year, if anybody remembers, they ran first round. That was the only qualifying pass that a lot of the cars got. It just wasn't, you didn't have any pomp, didn't have any circumstance, didn't have any closure, check in after Indy and let's see who won the thing. But to be able to run the event to conclusion, for the Florida fans to be able to see the whole thing, and as you mentioned, to root on their guy, a win-win-win.
Yes. All right. So Top Fuel, Brittany Force, number one qualifier. Mike Salinas coming out of the 8th slot. Salinas ran Justin Ashley twice. Justin called out Salinas. Salinas beat him. They had to run each other first round. Salinas beat him again. Justin, of course, doing his thing. He was 0.38 off the starting line, but just couldn't hold down that 366.9. And I think that's what was surprising. Mike was telling me we ran some huge numbers in testing. He told us in the media center, I told the guys, hey, do what you got to do to find power. And that's it. And he walked away from him. He had some really great things to say in the media center. We're hoping to connect with Mike in the next week or two, but he's not a micromanager. I hire people to do what's right, and they're expected to do it. And Rob Flynn and Aaron Cave, they did it, right? They did it. They found the power. They're way down in the 60s. Mike gets by Justin. Mike beats Brittany. Mike goes on and beats Leah. He was tough on the ladies. Mike goes to the final round. Other side of the ladder, Steve Torrence, Capco, is back. 68 first round. 74 beats Tony Schumacher second round. Runs Doug Coletta, who set a career best 64.6. I believe it's a career best. Certainly was low ET of race day and the meet. But Doug Coletta and Alan Johnson, my goodness. Torrence beats Doug. Doug had some issues. Sets up the final round between Salinas and Torrence.
Yeah, and you look at Josh Hart, goes out and wins the Pep Boys call out, comes back the next morning and loses on a hole shot round number 1. I think that shows anybody that's paying any attention, you can't let your guard down for a second. The Top Fuel field is going to be so competitive, and it's going to be like that all year long. Mike Salinas had a great car. I spoke to him at length while they were taking pictures in the winner's circle. He showed me a couple of those time slips from testing. And impressive numbers, no doubt about it. They've got a car that's going to be pretty hard to guard. I've said all along that Alan Johnson and Doug Coletta are going to be a factor this year. Torrence has got a chip on his shoulder. Brittany's car's fast as it's always been. The fact that Justin Ashley, you look at how good that car is and how good that team is and how good they ran, and he had zero to show for the weekend. But there's going to be, I think everybody is going to have their day in the barrel, so to speak, at some point, where you just get your teeth kicked in, even if you did qualify second, third, or fourth, because the guy or girl you run in the first round is going to be tough. So it's going to be fun to be a fan. I think it's going to be a great year to be sitting in my seat and bring on the next one. I'm already ready.
Yeah, the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge for Phoenix is set. Mike Salinas is going to run Leah Pruitt. Steve Torrence is going to run Doug Coletta in a rematch, and we're already thinking about it, right? Like the handicappers should be handicapping this race. I guess Salinas would have to be the favorite over Leah. Steve and Doug, I don't know. We'll let the odds makers do that. But nobody wants to lose 2 in a row to the same person back-to-back races. That's the whole point of it, right? Like to either allow Doug to get revenge on Steve or to have Steve beat Doug 2 in a row and put them in a very difficult position right out of the box.
I'm not sure that I'd say Salinas is a heavy favorite over Leah. Leah's car ran very well this weekend. You remember last year, she didn't even qualify for the race. This year, she ends up going to the semifinals. That car's going to win a couple of races or 3 races or 18 races this year before it's all said and done. But the call out or the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge, I think is going to be a lot of fun because of exactly what you said. how bad do you think Doug Coletta would like to have that round back? Well, you don't get that one back, but you do get a shot at revenge. And I think that they're all going to be taking it pretty seriously with cash up for grabs. And, how bad do you think Steve Torrence wants to send a message to Doug? Look, I beat you once. I'm going to beat you again. And if we run on Sunday, I'm going to beat you again. If we run next week, I'm going to beat you again. You might as well start getting used to it. So this is going to be a great addition, I think, to Saturday qualifying, where the fans will get to see some actual competition and something that means more than just, low ET.
It definitely means more. And it's I don't want to say it's personal, but you can't race. Anybody who's raced knows that when you go out and you race and you get beat, it's annoying. But when it happens over and over again, it becomes an aggravation, an urge, if you will. Salinas and Torrence in the final round. Torrence off the starting line first, but Salinas just outran him and won the race by a little bit. But what I want to highlight is something
a lot bit
by 500, 75 to a 70. But I want to highlight Bunny Burkett. Bunny Burkett goes into the International Drag Racing Hall of Fame, big match race, Alky Funny Car in the Northeast. There was a lot of discussion about, all the different things that Bunny had done. And my opinion was that the best thing she had done is mentor young, crew guys, crew racers, and Gary Pritchett and the Cave brothers, Aaron and Adam Cave are a couple. There's a few more out there. And they met in the final round at the race on the weekend that their mentor went into the Hall of Fame. And they were all at the Hall of Fame. And Gary Pritchett gave just a tremendous, heartfelt speech. And for Bunny's boys to race each other in the final round, that's some extra stuff going on. That's like one of those cosmic moments that there's no guarantees that it's going to happen, but it happened. And I think that it's, what do you call it, serendipity or whatever. Pretty cool moment.
It was, and I was there at the Hall of Fame and saw that as well. Gary did a spectacular job accepting on behalf of Bunny when she was inducted. But there's so much of that goes on. The next generation are people that were influenced by somebody or got started with somebody, and I think that there's so much of that that's still going on. That's why racers will take time when a young man or a young woman comes up to the ropes, and that's why, especially the junior graduates that remember what it was like when they were the kid on the other end of on the other side of the ropes, and all you got to do is set the hook. I got an email from a young man from Florida University, which, by the way, the marching band was cool.
Amazing, great addition. Exactly, a great addition.
But I got an email from a guy who plays in the band, who's studying aerospace engineering, said, I have never been to a drag race before. I had no idea what this was all about. How can I get more involved? Is there somebody that's got an internship program? Is there somebody? So I forwarded his information to a couple of people. But I think that, those connections and the fact that somebody like Bunny back then would take the time to make those connections, to introduce these people to something that ended up being very important to be their way of life. And wasn't the Top Fuel final like a 2,000th of a second? You sound like, I blew them away. It was no big deal.
Well, it's 0.95 to an 0.43, so there's advantage Steve, 370 to 375, advantage Mike, and yes, it came down to a couple of thou, that's great. That's what it's supposed to be, right? It's a team sport.
Well, 2,000ths of a second is like, I drove past him, no big deal. 2,000ths of a second at 330 miles an hour. And that was the last two pro cars, or the last two Top Fuel cars of the day. No, it was a great weekend all the way around. I can't think of an on-track incident really, other than Bob Tasca's boomer in the lights that broke the body. It wasn't a huge mess, oil down or anything. There was a problem with Austin's car on the starting line when it apparently broke a rod in the burnout after the throttle stop failed. But all things considered, it was a really good, fun, clean weekend of nitro racing.
We tore up one alcohol funny car. I guess it was Headley with the Alanabi body from Frank Manzo's era. I was sad about that. I was like, oh no. But it'll make a great collectible in somebody's bar room. No, maybe they'll fix it. Who knows? Funny car. Ron Capps was the number one qualifier. Kind of jumped up and stole that number one qualifying position in the last session. But everybody was running great. All right. It was pretty amazing. Tasca ran well. Cruz ran well. Force ran well. Hagan ran well. But, Capps gets through Terry Haddock. Alexis takes out Cruz. Caps gets beaten by Alexis. Alexis goes on to run Hagan. Hagan takes her out. Hagan got through Tim Wilkerson and Bob Tasca. Hagan goes to the final, other side of the ladder. You and I were sitting side by side at the test session on Wednesday, and during the duration of the show, I saw JR make 2 passes, 88 and like a 90, just going down the track. Other guys are going up in smoke, having issues. The DHL Toyota going down the racetrack. And I thought, and we talked about it on the show, like, watch out for those guys. And sure enough, J.R. Todd beats Blake Alexander, beats Robert Height, who had an issue that was unfortunate. The car sat on the starting line, beats Chad Green, and goes on to run Matt Hagan in the final round. Hagan wins, but our Too Fast, Too Tasty is going to be Hagan versus Alexis. It's going to be Chad Green versus J.R. Todd when we get to Phoenix. But Matt Hagan goes back-to-back for Tony Stewart.
Yeah, Dickie Venable's birthday, Matt Hagan's crew chief, so obviously he was pretty excited about that. Tony was very excited about it, on a day when Leah made the semis, on a day when Tony went to the second round, or on a weekend when Tony went to the second round in the alcohol car. But great weekend for the team. And, I think JR, as we talked about last week or last couple of weeks, those guys have got a chip on their shoulder, and they should. They had a subpar performance last year. They have a chip on their shoulder. They're coming out here. They feel like they've got something to prove. I spoke to Jono earlier in the weekend, and he was talking about, some of the steps that they've taken and some of the major changes that they've made to try to turn the program around and get it back where it needs to be. Remember, that team won a couple of championships within the last decade. So it's not like those guys have never known how to race. They got into a situation last year they couldn't seem to fight their way out of, but they're determined now to get back on top. So, and again, it's going to be all year long. Bob Tasca had a really fast car. Robert Height had a really fast car. Tim Wilkerson ended up with nothing to show for a weekend when he ran fairly well. Jim Head's car, I spoke to Jim on Sunday morning, and he said, we made 18 test runs. The thing ran perfectly. We come here for Q1 and Q2, and just like the car forgot how to run. And they turned it around and qualified solid, even though they didn't have as long a day as they wanted. But there's going to be a lot going on out there. Cruz is going to be tough all year long. Matt drew first blood, and I don't know how many people follow Tony Stewart's social media, but he did a little post in the winner's circle, and he said, hey, you can't win them all. If you don't win the first one, then we did. So bring on Phoenix. They're ready. And Phoenix has been a pretty good racetrack to Dickie over the years also.
Oh, absolutely. No, it was good. It was good for Matt. He was good in the media center. Very happy for Dickie Venables, but also happy for Del Worsham and Nikki and Alexis, because Alexis, they've got a fast car, and it's a beautiful car. I like this edition better than the black and white. And Chad Green, too. Daniel Wilkerson, I've been very open about it. He's my favorite crew chief interview right now, even when I'm not doing the interview, because he has no filter. He has no ability to pull anything back. He just, puts it all out there, and hopefully he doesn't learn to not say things, because I find it to be very interesting. But just a great day of racing. But that having said, tough, for Robert to start off that way. Whatever it was the problem. Obvious glitch, unfortunate, but not the way they wanted to start.
Well, what happened is the throttle disconnected. I don't know if it was a Leahy thing or if it was just a mechanical thing, but when he went into his burnout at that point, I was pretty sure that that's what was going to happen, and that's what did happen when they idle up and stage your car. One thing you have to remember, in a nitro car, you can't just put it neutral and rev it up a couple of times to see if it's okay. Not possible to do. So if you think you have a problem, there's no way to know whether or not you have a problem until it comes time to stand on the gas. And they idled it up and put it on the starting line, and when the tree flashed and he stood on the gas, nothing happened. I guarantee you whatever the issue was has been, diagnosed and fixed and re-engineered 17 times by now, but it doesn't help them then. But, they got off to not a good start. John Force Racing in the second round had a pretty tough round, but we all know how resilient that team is. We all know how talented they are, and we all know that they're going to be coming back fighting mad in Phoenix.
I want to welcome any first-time listeners out there. If you're just signing on, this is WFO Radio. We break down the results of the Camping World Series each Tuesday with the voice of the NHRA, Alan Reinhart. If you're just logging on, we would love for you to share the show so your NHRA fan friends can hear the recap. Great stuff, and I'm seeing the numbers are up, and I appreciate that. Super excited that so many people were excited about this season. Let's talk Pro Stock, all right, so first of all, I think we've confirmed the theory that in the 2 nitro categories, we are going to have some of the most competitive fields ever in history because there's just too many good cars, and we're adding to the number of good cars. Pro stock is outrageous, right? The guys who had tough years last year, like Mason McGahey and his dad Chris, they showed up. Mason goes all the way to the final round, had some strong performances. KB Titan are already quick and fast. Elite had a nightmare day, but they won the race. It's like when you have a nightmare day, like, oh man, Erica doesn't even get to the starting line. That's terrible, but they still won the race. That tells you something. Troy Coughlin Jr. over Mason McGahey, and his grandpa Jeg is in the house for the first time in like 6 years. That has happened. Pretty amazing stuff. Just a great day of pro stock racing, and making the show is going to be tough in 2023. It
is. Erica's car, for those who didn't see, wouldn't start round number 1. Simple as that. Fire them up, and it didn't. They recycled the ECU. They kicked this and threw that and slammed the door twice, and none of that worked. So, of course, after they shoved it off the starting line, towed it back to the trailer, they hit the switch and it fired right up.
Yeah.
But,
that's aggravating, right? Like that's worse. That's worse than if they had found it, right? Because they could like, oh, we found the problem. Now it's fired up to replace everything.
And you still don't know for sure if you found the problem, until you can find the smoking gun. But it's the typical deal, right? How many times has somebody taken their car to the mechanic and go, look, when I turn the air on, it squeals. You turn the air on, it's fine. And the car won't act up when it's supposed to. But, Erica was back on the starting line, rooting on her teammates. She was up on the door with Jerry Don the next round when he was going into his second round of competition. And so, once she was out, she turns out to be, teammate support any way she can. I also thought, even more awesome than that, after the race was over, after Troy had won, after Pro Stock was done for the day, after Nitro was done for the day, after the crowd is all heading out, and she was down on the starting line with the juniors because they didn't get an opportunity to run where they normally do in the day either. NHRA wanted to give them a chance to at least drive down the racetrack one time, and Erica was out on the starting line with the junior kids after the day was over, after everybody was gone, the old story about character, right? Is doing the right thing when nobody's watching, and I think that was a perfect example of Erica remembering being that little kid and wanting to be out there for them.
I do want to apologize, a mini apology, in that when Erica did not fire, Jason Galvin and I, rushed to the scene, and in that live television moment, like TV gets the priority, and we never got back to it, right? Like we never got back to her to speak with her for NHRA.TV. And it's something that I thought about, we always debrief after it's over, Alan. And that was one that I was thinking like, man, had the moment passed, like how far after the moment would it have been worth talking to Erica? And obviously she was unhappy, but she would have spoken with us, but we just kind of moved on and did not talk with Erica. That's something in the future I would try to correct. But we just kind of, TV got priority and we let it go. I let it go.
Yeah, and you know what? It's not I don't know that it's that big of a deal. I don't know, would it have been nice to hear from her? Yes. But what's she going to say? Yeah, exactly what I think she showed. She showed with her actions what she would have said with words. I'm disappointed. Now how can I help my team? And that's exactly the stance that she took the rest of the day. It's like, I can't win this race. How can I help my team and make sure that we still win this race? And they did. It was interesting, though. You look at the Final Four, right? And everybody's talking about how many cars that KB's got out there now, KB Titan's got out there, and how many cars are out there now that are, flying the banner of elite. But then you look at, there wasn't like, everybody was dominating. You had 4 cars in the Final Four that was a pretty wide variety of the guys that are going to be battling it out and the teams that are going to be battling it out. So I'm good with it. I think that... spoke with Chris McGahey earlier in the weekend, and he said, look, I have 2 cars. I have to race 8 cars that are all getting, help from Richard and help from Ingersoll and help from, Jake and help from all the guys, Kyle, all the guys over there. He said, they now have 8 of them. And he said, then you look at KB Titan. He said, they have 6 of them that all have the engines coming out of that shop, that all have the, the Greg and Downing and all the guys over there that, all the brain trusts. He said, and they have 6 of them on that team. I still have 2. And one of his 2 got to the final round. So I thought that was pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to shout out to the Beaver Motorsports crew as well. Larry Morgan, Jim Yates was there. Chris McGaha refreshed their engine, and so like their parts with a refresh from Chris and Southwest Performance, and they qualified, right? They got in, they qualified. One of the Quadra cars, one of the elite cars did not qualify, which is, that's how it's going to go. There are going to be big affiliated teams that if they don't bring it, they're going to miss the show. So hats off to those guys. The Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge for Phoenix is going to be Troy Coughlin Jr. versus Dallas Glenn. Greg Anderson, who I believe it's Greg Anderson's birthday today, or perhaps yesterday. I saw it on social real quick as I was perusing the pages. Happy birthday, Greg. Mason McGaha and Greg Anderson. Sometimes the page was created on so-and-so day and it says their birthday, but I believe that's what I saw. But very interesting, Mason McGaha. And he made the final round, and good for that kid because they had a tough year last year.
Yeah, and he's still driving well. They didn't change anything on the car other than putting some rally stripes on it, according to his dad. So, it's good when you get off to a good start like that. It makes everybody feel better in the engine shop, everybody that works on the thing. That look, we put in a lot of time, we put in a lot of effort, we put in a lot of hours, and we got some kind of a reward back for it. So, bring on Arizona.
Yeah, Jim says probably a good thing you didn't talk to her at that point. Now, Erica always pulls it together.
That's good.
Yeah, and gives a great quote. But what would she have said? Like, we don't know what it is. It is unfortunate. But the Gatornationals is proving to be her, challenge race. Like we talk about racers in the NASCAR side, the Daytona 500 with Ron Capps in the U.S. Nationals. Fortunately, that's a story we'll never mention again. But the Gatornationals are Erica's kryptonite, at least so far. Which is fine. We'll with it being the first race of the season, we'll have something to talk about. She'll be aggravated by it, but I have no doubt that she'll eventually get the win and do it. Pro Stock Motorcycle. Wow, what a field. Gaige Herrera, #1 qualifier in his first race for the Vance & Hines team. I asked him on stage, like, can you go on and win the race? He says, I believe we can, and they did. Gaige beats Ron Torno, who is running a WFO sticker, by the way, on his bike now. Thank you, Ron, for that. Takes down Eddie Krawick, beats Gianna Evaristo. Gianna, her best weekend on a pro stock motorcycle, in my opinion, since she started. She beat Matt Smith in a legit race, goes 017, 684 at 196. Gianna looking good, feeling comfortable. Got around Mark Ingerson as well, but loses to Gaige. Gaige goes to the final round against Angie. Angie, who's got all the Red Rocket stuff and all the V-Twin stuff, does real well getting through John Hall, Joey Gladstone, Chase Van Zandt, but comes up short to Gaige Herrera. And now Gaige Herrera is the fresh, young superstar of pro stock motorcycle with that kind of performance.
He's going to be good all year long. The Vance and Hines guys are going to give him everything he needs to win because that's what they do. And I think he's going to be good all year long. I think that the time that he spent last year riding a motorcycle that he knew was underpowered, that he knew wasn't competitive, and that he knew probably wouldn't qualify, but gave him the reps, gave him the experience so that when he did get enough power under him, and he certainly didn't know it was going to be Vance and Hines power at the time, that he would be ready to take advantage of it. And, I compared it on Sunday, and I believe, honestly, but it's true. You look at the amount of years that Erica Ender spent driving Jim Cunningham's car, and have all the respect in the world for Jim Cunningham, the late Jim Cunningham, who was a Ford guy and was putting his money where his mouth is, was running, but it was not a competitive car. And Erica knew that it was not a competitive car, but she showed up every week and she got in and she honed her skills and she got, she made herself the driver so that once she did get the opportunity to get in a competitive car, she would be able to take advantage of it. And you've seen what she's done. And I think you're going to see great things out of Gaige as long as, the relationship with Vance and Hines stays solid. And as long as there's, the sky's the limit for that kid.
Yeah, very cool. And in the media center, he was just blown away. Like, I can't even believe this. I can't put it into words. He did a good job. He better get used to it because it looks like he's going to win a lot of races. Fast bike, speed record for Gainesville, 203. I think it was 203.49, just insanity, and picking up the win. But Pro Stock Motorcycle as well. Flying Ryan has clearly found some power. Angie's fast. Joey Gladstone going to be fast. Chase Van Zandt, great debut, getting to the semifinals, and that's the Too Fast, Too Tasty challenge. Gaige Herrera is going to run Gianna Evaristo, and Angie Smith is going to run Chase Van Zandt at their next race, which is in like 7 weeks.
Well, they're going to do that on my birthday still.
Oh, very good. Happy birthday, Alan. Where's that happen? Kansas? Where?
Chicago.
Chicago.
Yeah.
Listen to that. That's sounding pretty good.
Fuel Tech is literally across the street from Proline.
Okay, that makes sense. See, it all makes sense now. All right, let's talk Pro Mod. We had a burn down. First round, we had a burn down in Pro Modified. Manny Bajinga comes into the sport and is like, I got to run the champ. Let me burn him down on the starting line. It lasted like just under 4 minutes, the whole deal. It's up there on the socials right now. We're having various conversations like, we're in the middle of a burn down here. Oh my gosh. And kind of interesting. I saw some polarizing comments. So people were like, I don't like a burn down. What's taking him so long to race? And, what do you say about that? But Pro Mod's super fun.
I can't believe Chris Thorne did it.
Why is that?
Because I'm telling you, I'm the champ. As far as I'm concerned, you don't even belong in my sandbox. Why would I partake in this? If I'm Chris Thorne, I'm going up. If I race him again next week, I'm double bulbing. I'm going to go, look, I'm not putting up with you. Just,
Well, I don't know. But see, I think that's the deal with Chris. Okay, so here's what we know about Chris, right? Like, he wanted to be on the Pinks TV show. He participated in that. He did real well on that. He's not really a rah-rah talker, me and my sponsors, here's the deal with the team. He's kind of a quiet character. But his actions speak very loudly, and that was one of them. Like, Bajinga won't stage. He's like, I'm the champ, man. I'm going to stage when I want to stage. They sat there forever, and they both got off the starting line well. But Chris, who won the FTI Pro Mod Showdown, which had reaction time as part of it, 0-18 on the tree. Then he goes against Dimitri, 0-28 on the tree. Then, he runs into Justin Bond, and Justin Bond is 10 to his 39. Justin Bond goes to the final round, wins against J.R. Gray. But what a great day of Pro Modified racing. And now they're on the big TV show. They've got a countdown. They've got, this was a big weekend. FTI with that showdown. Hopefully that program advances because it was fun once we figured out how to add up all the numbers. It was moving on. It's
a shame the WFO audience couldn't have been in the announcer booth.
Oh, I agree. But maybe also a good thing. But the bottom line is Thorne got the 7,500, but Justin Bond won the race. And his mom, it was her birthday. She had texted him, go win, and he won. He got emotional in the winner's circle. That's what it's all about.
Yeah, and She Capital stayed up and watched. So, nothing like showing off for your sponsor at the first race of the year, especially when he lives on the other side of the world and has to stay up until the middle of the night to see you win. He doesn't want to stay up to see you lose. So, it all worked out good for Justin, and, we're off and running. The one thing that I'm sorry to be the negative guy because I'm trying not to be the negative guy. I really need to have a couple of turbo cars and a couple of nitrous cars in there somewhere. I think the class loses something when they all have the same power adder. Well, sort of, you know what I mean? They're all supercharged in one way or another. So
I had a text exchange with Ricky, right? Ricky texted me. It was the first session. I was calling Pro Mod, and Ricky and I are friendly. And he can text me anything, but he texted me kind of angry that I didn't mention that he wasn't there. And I was like, I don't even know why you're not here. And there was a bunch of reasons, but he says that the rules aren't but nitrous cars aren't on even playing field. But it was a quick text, so I didn't get the full deal. But the answer is yes, absolutely. The point is we need those other power adders. They exist out there. They're fast. What do we need to do? I know Lonnie is working hard to make it as fair as is possible. So I really don't understand. I do kind of think that Ricky wasn't there because he didn't have help, right? Chad Hester is now working on another team because he thought Ricky was retiring, and Ricky was retiring, except Ricky didn't retire officially. He's going to run, I think, 10 races this year, and you get it. It was an unfortunate deal, but you're right. More power adders make for a more interesting race.
Yeah, there are a number of fans out there that are fans of turbo cars. There are a number of fans that are fans of nitrous cars. And if they don't have their guy to root for, I think that they're not as interested in the class, and I also think that the class is more interesting when it has all the different power adders. So hopefully it'll all straighten itself out.
Yes, exactly. Other race winners from the weekend. Top alcohol dragster Julie Natas wins the Baby Gators. Uncorks one in the final round, like gets after it and runs 5:14. Cody Crone, though, has got the world on notice. This kid's already got his Top Fuel license, from what I understand. Frank Hall. See, here's how I judge things, okay? When Frank Hawley walks you up to the tower and says, "Gentlemen, meet Cody," that there's gravity with that. And that's what happened. And this kid is a young man, big smile, good-looking kid. He obviously knows his way around the cockpit of a race car. Had success in junior dragsters in 2012, won a championship. He's run nostalgia cars real well. Gets to the final, comes up short against Julie. Back-to-back weeks. Julie on a mission to win a championship. She's told me that this might be her last year in top alcohol dragster trying to win that championship. Matt Gill and the team, same deal. They've won 4 in a row at Gainesville.
Yeah, they've got a good combination for that place. Kind of like when Joey went on his run out there in Vegas a few years ago, and he was just unstoppable on both the national and the regional side of it. But yeah, Cody's car was fast all weekend. And I spoke to Randy Meyer a little bit in the winner's circle, and he kind of had a smirk on his face. I said, "How long have you been sitting on that?" And he's like, "Well, we think, we didn't think we needed it until we needed it." And but the fact that I think it's cool for fans of alcohol. Randy Meyer's team is going to every national event except Seattle this year, with a different roster of drivers here and there, but their fans all over the country are going to be able to see that team in action, and I think that's pretty cool. Matt Gill and Paul Gill, they've always been solid out on the West Coast. It'll be interesting to see how much they travel if they decide to go out and start chasing the national points, because Bellemere had just a nightmare day, shook the thing all 4 wheels off the ground in the first round, and Bob McCosh says, what's he got to do, right? I mean, he's got such a good car, and yet still keeps getting bit. It was I believe an electrical gremlin in round 1 that cost him any shot at having the race. And, we didn't have the number of alcohol funny cars like we did in alcohol dragster. There were 21 of them that were there qualifying, but we did have some good high quality cars there. So, just re-rack them and bring on the next event. But that Moduline car is for real, believe me.
Yeah, Tony Stewart said that his car is finally starting to do what they're asking it to do, so they're going to get better and more competitive down the road. A couple of questions out there before we talk about the Lucas Oil Series, Alan. One gentleman just wants you to give a little your thought or so on Tony Schumacher's first race with the new guys, and he asks if the team has an all-new crew, and the answer is no. They're new to him this year, but many of them were with Bob Tasca last year. That's Mike Neff and John Schaefer. Neff was with Tony when the Army left, and that kind of dissolved the team. Schaefer was picked up, and they've worked with Neff, and so they're all together. But Wraith 4 wants to know what you thought of their first race.
Tony wants to win every race he goes to, and if he doesn't win it, he wants nobody to win it. So, he would not tell you there was a successful event unless he left with a trophy. But I think, making the transition from funny car to Top Fuel, and, they're different. Your mindset is different when you're tuning a Top Fuel car versus a funny car. As far as the guys all working together, the guys are all used to working together. Even the crew guys, a number of them came from Tasca's. Hang on, dyno's going again. A number of them also came over from Tasca, so you got good chemistry there. I think if I had to give them a grade, I'd give them an incomplete. Like we have said so many times in the beginning of the year, right? Give me 3 or 4 races to start a trend. You can't look at one race and have a trend come out of one race. So give me 3 or 4, but I think they're going to be just fine. They didn't certainly get the result they wanted. They probably didn't get the performance that they wanted over the course of the weekend, but they're going to get there.
But if memory serves me right, didn't Tony beat the Pep Boys All-Star Call-Out winner in the first round? So he did get a round win. He has 0.48 on the tree, went 7.72.2 at 3.32, and then got beaten by Steve Torrence, puffing the tires. Like, that's not terrible for Tony Schumacher. Like, on to the next. Let's figure it out. Other race winners, pretty cool stuff going on in Comp Eliminator two bad, fast cars. Jim Greenheck coming out of the number one spot was 74 under in qualifying, goes up against Joe Aerosmith, who also has a WFO sticker on his car. Thank you, Joe. They met in the final round, and just Greenheck overpowered him. It was you're 74 under. That's pretty good.
Yeah, and Greenheck's been doing it a long time, and he made no bones about it. He said that he felt like that event was as big or bigger than when he won Indy a few years ago. He's a guy's been doing it a long time, and I spoke to him a little bit. I walked down the line since we didn't have the Parade of Champions. You know, I always love hearing from the guys when you go down and talk to them on the return road. And since we didn't get a chance to do that, then I took it upon myself to walk down the line while they were all waiting to get their pictures taken. But he said, I don't know how much longer I'm going to do this. So it was great to get, you know, that's a guy that's been around long enough that he remembers when it was the Winter Nationals, the Gator Nationals, the U.S. Nationals, the Summer Nationals. Those were the ones you wanted to win. And so now he's got the Gators to go with it. But it was a great performance for him.
What a quick car, though. Like, that thing is wicked. And that's what Comp Eliminator is all about. And I have made the promise to the audience and the comp racers out there and social media, Nikki is on board, that we're going to try really hard to feature comp as much as is possible because of how crazy and amazing those cars are, and they need extra coverage. Super Stock, Pete Dagnolo, world champ, represent, doing great job. Stock Eliminator, Jeff
back to back.
Back to back. Okay, so maybe
Dagnolo won the Gators last year, and that was a big part of kicking him off from the championship.
Well, and when you called his win, I was back in the staging lines with Matt Gill and the crew because I was trying to figure out, you know, what was going on for the winner's circle. And I listened and I heard you announce the reaction time, and I thought about Pete Dagnolo and was like, this guy is just in the zone right now. There are some times where racers, like, think of an athlete when they're in the prime of their career and they're in that zone where they're at their best physically and their best mentally in that 2 or 3 year span, and he's in it. Like, this is happening now for Pete, and pretty amazing. You know, he might win it again, and then we can make up for missing his championship winner view. Jeff Strickland wins Stock Eliminator. Mike Rubilato, Super Comp. That was huge for Mike. Mike and I talked afterwards. Mike has a crazy story. Last year, he detached a retina, and he thought he would never race again. Had some amazing surgery done. They did some stuff. The doctor told him, oh, no, now you're better than before. That thing that we got in there is going to be good. And the idea that he thought he was never going to race again to winning the Gator Nationals in Super Comp, one of the most difficult categories, that is an amazing story. And he was very emotional in the winner's circle because he almost lost something that he loved so much, which is his racing.
Yeah, you know, he's been out there doing it for so long, and, you know, now his daughter, his son-in-law, both race and are successful. And, you know, he's like so many of the other guys out there. You know, racing is part of it, but it's the people. It's hanging out with your friends. It's being able to, and I think I think that was probably as big as anything. The fact that he was afraid, if I can't race anymore, then what? As far as just hanging out with my friends and going and doing this stuff. But he showed that, you know, not only is he healthy, but he still has what it takes to get in the winner's circle. So good on him.
Yes, absolutely. Congratulations. John Taylor won Super Gas, got his truck painted, and
then broke the engine.
No, I don't know that.
Yeah, they towed it to the winner's circle because it wouldn't start.
You know, when I went and talked to him about it, he neglected to mention that. I guess I can understand why. Colby Fuller won Super Street, takes out Fletcher in the final round, beats Brad Plord in the semifinal round. That's a tough day at the office. Congratulations to Colby. Doug Crumlich wins Top Sportsman. Joe Welch, Factory Showdown. Oh, my goodness. 185 mile per hour and a 3,500-pound factory car on 9-inch wide tires. What do you make of Welch's weekend? Almost crashed the thing a couple of times. Like, I could see both doors from the starting line. It was crazy, but he held it together. He won the race anyway. Like, that was an insane run. And then he goes on and wins the event. He's 3 for 3 in final.
Yeah, the car's ridiculously fast. But I thought, and again, the appeal of the Factory Stock Showdown is the diversity. And there are a lot of fast Dodges out there, a handful of fast Mustangs out there, and you know the Camaros ain't going anyplace. And it was a fun day of racing. It was fun qualifying. It was fun racing for the entire group out there. When they're getting a bite on the start line, they're hovering the front end and carrying it out there 150 feet, and they're running well over 180 miles an hour. It's just fun racing, especially when you can bet or root my brand against yours. It's going to be a long year for those guys, but it's off to a great start. And 185 miles an hour is a tribute to A, they've been obviously doing some work in the winter to make that thing faster, and B, the weather and track conditions were pretty good this weekend.
Well, the way it sits is very different than all the other cars. Like, you can just visually see it's got a lot more rake to it than all the other Challengers and certainly the Camaros and Mustangs. So I'm very interesting. And it's so crazy, right? An event like that, there are moments that are amazing that I don't want to say get lost, but thank goodness for Earl to bring up the Brenda Grubbs, John Gray, AA stock automatic heads up. I think it was in the semis or like that was insanity. Having a heads up, I was able to take it in from the water boxes. Unreal.
Yeah, and Brenda won it on a hole shot by 0.004 of a second. Two show quality cars, just amazing cars. Big block muscle cars. They're both, for those who don't know, they're both 69 Camaros. Hers is a 427. His is an SS 396 high horsepower deal. But bring it, right? That's why we love class eliminations, especially at places like Indy where everybody comes out. And when they meet in a big round like that, that was probably the run of the weekend. And stock eliminator was those two cars getting after it.
Yeah. Just amazing. All right, final thought, Alan. Like, what do you like when you think about it and you look at the Gatornationals and the decision to make it the first race, and some people were the break with tradition. Like, there was a break with tradition. We did it once during the pandemic, but that was done for legality reasons. Like, we couldn't start anywhere else. This was a wide open, sold out, packed house, bigger than it's ever been on a Saturday, certainly. Final thought about the Gatornationals.
We need to go back to Pomona first. Speaking as a contractor, that's too long for me to go without a paycheck. I don't care about the rest of it. Me. It's all about me. I need to start getting paid earlier in the year.
Well, I agree with that. I'm with you. I'm with you on that. We're together.
However it is going forward, I'm good with it. In fact, my third week in this part of the country, I came down to the Baby Gators. Went down and had lunch with Berserko Bob, which was worth every mile driven to go down there and see that guy. And then the Gatornationals were spectacular. Being able to come here today, I'm going to Warren Johnson's place tomorrow, and then going to South Georgia for the division race. So if it ends up that this becomes the new normal, I'm okay with it. Like I put on Twitter when I got up Monday morning, Dear Mother Nature, thank you. Can we continue this arrangement, please? Because every farmer I know is just as happy with Monday rain as they are with Saturday or Sunday rain. So you can rain on Monday, except Labor Day weekend. You can rain on Monday whenever you want, and just don't rain on Saturday, Sunday anymore. But no, overall, I think it was a grand slam. The weather was good except for Friday night. The show was spectacular. As I've said over and over and over again over the years, if this was your first experience with NHRA, if you've never come to a professional drag race before, and you came to the Gatornationals and you left going, I don't know, and don't come back, because the next one's not going to be better. The top fuel final at 0.002 of a second, all of the stories that we tracked throughout the course of the day and the weekend, the way qualifying went, having the Pep Boys All-Star call out, everything about the event was successful. And I really, from the things that I don't know that I would have put on the highlight list if I had to predict what was going to be the highlight list, but I really, really thought that the marching bands were cool. Both of them. We had a high school band there on Friday, and then we had the University of Florida there leading the track walk, and they played some stuff from stands during downtime on Sunday. And I really thought that added something to the event, just kind of a more festive atmosphere. And I know that NHRA has been talking about doing that with other bands in Moore Market. Hang on a second. Flutter there at the end.
Is that a chassis dyno? It sounds like a chassis dyno.
I honestly don't know. That's across the street in another building at Fuel Tech. But I thought, I thought the event was a major success, I think. And, we've had a couple of debriefs, and, we'll going to talk with some of the execs at NHRA later in the week about, some things that, can we do this better? Can we, do we need to do this again? Or, but I thought overall, I also think, NHRA announcing their Employee of the Year in March, I thought that was very special.
Tremendous. Congratulations,
yes.
Evan. That is a big deal. No, the bands were great. The junior funny car was great. So much stuff. Garlett's driving that Hellcat was great. Like, it was nonstop little cool moments that the fans were just getting to enjoy over and over again, and that's how it's supposed to be. I didn't get out in the pits and as nearly as much as I wanted because it was just so busy and so packed. But we get to do it at your home track in 2 weeks, Wild Horse Pass Motorsports Park. We'll preview it next week on the show. Alan, enjoy your time out at South Georgia with the Southeastern Division once again. Say hi to WJ and Kurt for me. Please tell Kurt I want him on WFO.
I'll tell him.
Please. All right. Talk soon.
See you later.
There he goes, the voice of the NHRA. Alan Reinhart joins us each week here on WFO. All right, everybody, here's the deal. Before you sign off, right? We would love for you to check out this show on a weekly basis. We do this show a lot, like our archive. You can subscribe, click the bell, check out all these classic interviews. We've got a lot of great drivers in the archive recently. And now we shift into our race winner mode. Part of WFO radio is that you earn your way on the show. You earn your way on. And so Mike Salinas and Troy Coughlin and Matt Hagan and Gaige Herrera have earned their way on the show. We're going to work really hard to catch up with them these next 2 weeks and get them all on the show. Are they all going to be on tomorrow? Are they going to be in one show? Are we going to break them up into like naturally aspirated and nitro? I don't know. I don't know any of that stuff. But we have a mobile application for the audio only folks. You can listen for free. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, SoundCloud, wherever you get your podcasts. Those of you who like to see the show, even though I certainly have a face for radio, we do make it easy with these video shows and live streams. But we would love to have you part of the WFO universe all season long, because all kinds of great stuff gets revealed on these programs. For instance, a week ago, Daryl Gwynn was on the show. And he went on to be inducted into the Motorsports Hall of Fame of America and just did the drag racers so proud. Daryl Gwynn, that is in our archive. Josh Hart from BURNYZZ, right before the big BURNYZZ Fan Fest, came on the show. And so we've got if you're a first-time WFOer, we ask you to check out the archive and check out some of the great interviews. All right, guys, if you got a question, if you've got a comment, if you want me to address something in particular, put it in the comment section right now, and I will. I'll spend a few minutes, but I do want to tell you about the people who make this thing possible, in particular, the Patreons. We are about to do the first Hear It from Michael Heiner of race season, and he's giving me incrementals and all kinds of interesting stuff. Pro Stock crew chief Michael Heiner does a special guest show for our Patreons only, the VIP Listener Club. Hear It from Heiner. You have to join Patreon, patreon.com/WFO radio. Hear It from Heiner. We're going to do that this week. It is going to be great. People are asking me about Project Pontiac. What is the update on Project Pontiac? The update is we've got a broken engine block, and we're now assessing different roads. Unfortunately, the block is all cracked, and so now we have to come up with a new plan. A simple refresh has just turned into a new build. If you want to see an old bracket car get turned into an NHRA Super Street car and a guy with a microphone, see if he can race, you're going to want to follow Project Pontiac. And I'm super excited about it, but also kind of depressed and slightly demoralized. But other than that, like every good story has got some adversity, and we have run into our adversity right out of the gate. Like, hey, here we're going to do a project. Adversity. Tough stuff. The Big Daddy Don Garlett's International Drag Racing Hall of Fame thing. Mark Sellerwood and David Sue Morris and my friends Rick Daddy and Jason Bader, who has won in Super Street, and Corey Kramer and Keith Howard. And our table was rocking out there. We had a great time. John Force did a great job. So did Lewis Bloom and Gary Pritchett and everybody who talked about who accepted on behalf of one of the inductees or was one of the inductees. It was great. What I will say to you is that the 2024 International Drag Racing Hall of Fame induction ceremony is going to be very fun too. I don't know who's going to make it, but plan to be there. if you're going to go to the Gator Nationals, as so many people are. Want to mention the sponsors who make it possible for me to do this, guys. Like, genuinely, I could not, I'd have to have a gig, right? I'd have to be out there in the lumberyard with Danny Noonan doing the thing. And instead, thanks to Phillips Connect, thanks to BURNYZZ Speed Shop, thanks to Foggett, FTI Performance Transmissions and Torque Converters, and of course, Total Seal Piston Rings, I can chase down drag racers and create content that you find in the archive. And it also helps me prepare for my announcing job with the NHRA. Frank Hawley's Drag Racing School, Rodax Coffee and Grills.com. That's one that anybody can get. Like Samtech, you want to have a career, that's a big ticket item. Bag of coffee, not as much. But all of our sponsors, you can find them on our website. And you might not need them now, but when you do, get in on it. WFO merch. I ran into a guy, the Miami Hollywood Speedway shirt, at BURNYZZ Speed Shop, and it was surreal. It was an amazing experience because I go walking in and there's this dude and he's got the Miami Hollywood shirt. And I'm like, which I designed with the old logo for Miami Hollywood Speedway, where that tree back there is from the actual starting line. And I was like, hey, where did he? He goes, I got it from WFO. He's from England. And I just thought it was amazing. It was an amazing moment to see that classic Miami Hollywood Speedway shirt on someone I didn't know, that they picked it up through WFO. And then again, am I surprised that people actually listen to the show and watch the show? I guess, yeah, kind of do. Even though I know that we have thousands of listeners, but it still amazes me. All right, let's see. Bill says, wonder what Brett Kepner is up to. Well, he's dealing with his medical situation, obviously health issues, but I spoke with Brett last week on my way to the World Series of Pro Mod. Speaking of which, Spencer Hyde is going to be joining us on the show. We're going to double back with our winners and get Spencer on the show to talk winning the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, which was a great race. Oh, man, you just brought up something that's got me annoyed. Triggered. You triggered me. I'm going to try to just not be triggered and move forward. Thanks, Bill. Kepner's great. We had some really good conversations while I drove over to Bradenton, and he's doing as well as he can. A wealth of drag racing knowledge. DG brought the house down at the Hall of Fame. That video is up and available. So is the Garlits one. CompetitionPlus.com aired the Big Daddy Don Garlits Hall of Fame. And I was the host, and I think it went great. And what can you do? But they were both great. Daryl Gwynn made us all so proud. This guy, shout out to North Hudson Dragway, RIP. Same with Miami Hollywood. Gary says, good show, Joe and Alan. Thank you. Yeah, this guy was hoping you got that. Take care of someone, get him a block. Okay, so I've got a line on a couple of blocks. Okay, like just because I don't tell you all the different things that are going down, it's just, it's not a fork in the road. Like Yogi Berra said, when you come to a fork in the road, take it. We've got multiple options here. And some of them are very expensive. And some of them are less expensive. And some of them are going to be require exotic and a lot of machining. And some of them are going to require less. But the thing that has come out of it is that I need to install a motor plate and a mid plate in my chassis. That the factory mounts, even though they're solid mounts, don't provide the block significant support. And that's why the block cracked. This guy, Jim Norris, Go LS engine. That's obviously a joke. You're joking. I want to spend more and get less. Jim, don't you understand? Don't you understand? Spend more, get less. Hello? Mentions of Patreons. Anybody who doesn't get my joke, I'm a Pontiac guy, and it is a religion. And this car has been a Pontiac-powered Pontiac. I remember the elite photographer, Francis Butler, told me our car would have never made the centerfold of Popular Hot Rodding magazine on the 25th anniversary of the Trans Am if it had a big block Chevrolet in it. And that's just something that people cannot understand. There's no way that's happening. It'll go back on the street with a street engine before it'll get an LS in there or a big block. I could probably go find a big block that'll run, make it 800 horsepower for like $5,000 sitting around. That's not what this is about. This is about doing things the right way. And I know you're joking, Jim. Like, I know you can't possibly be recommending I do something so blasphemous. Blasphemy. Bands are a great idea. Exposes the local youth to the sport. Well, yeah, that's a great way to say it. But really, it's the energy and the music of a live band. They were great. University of Florida was great. They came on the track walk. They blazed down the racetrack. They were very quick. It was really good. Patreon. Yeah, absolutely. Correct. But everybody that's on there, and I ask them over and over if they feel like they're getting the value, and they're the ones that will tell you. Not me. They. Listen to this guy. Oh, man. First-time commenter. The glory days of drag racing are gone when classic tracks are closing. Yeah, we got new classic tracks that have been built. You think about ZMAX, you think about Vegas. We got Chicago coming back this year. A lot of money invested in Bradenton. I think that's a negative outlook, Olds. And one thing, I know you're probably first-time WFO right now. This show is not about negative outlook. Negativity is not appreciated. We like positive outlook. You can be negative, but we're going to make fun. We'll make fun. Everybody talks trash about Evan, but you ever tried herding cats? Like, what do you know about Evan? We have fun with the guy. He is one of the more hardworking people and is a great example of the future of NHRA. That's the thing. Yeah, we have fun with Evan, but they made him the employee of the year with a giant cookie. This poor guy is trying to do his business. All of a sudden, Cody Savage from the Southeastern Division comes out with a giant cookie with his picture on it and anoints him. And Reinhart was in on it too somehow. Employee of the year. And I had nothing to do with it. I had nothing to do with it, Evan. Rick, WFO rocks. Thanks, Joe and Alan. Everybody talks trash about Evan, but yeah, no, that's it. Going bracket racing. Did you see Lester Johnson is trying to put together a private points program for D3 Top Sports and Top Dragster? Pretty cool. Looks like it will pay good money if they can get it going. Look, I think that is genius. I think it's genius. NHRA has their whole system, but look what Roger Brogdon has done for Comp Eliminator, and he's blazed a trail a little bit. The points are kept by NHRA, but if people want to create side action, isn't that their business? I don't know. I don't know what the official stance is, but I don't think it's negative. If Lester wants to do it, I think that's interesting. The only problem is about the one person who doesn't want to be involved. I know there are some guys out there trying to create a quasi super street world championship that way. But just sitting back and waiting for someone to do something and like, I like the idea that Lester is trying to do something on his own. They'll figure it out. Look at ProMod. They're on TV. They've got a countdown. They're doing stuff. They're getting very aggressive with it. You guys made it even greater. David, honestly, I had a great time. Very sad that my dad wasn't with me, but it was a very difficult, long, and like driving back and forth to BURNYZZ and all of that stuff. He watched on NHRA TV. We had a great time. We waited all winter and NHRA didn't disappoint. No, we didn't. It was one of the greatest races ever. Go Lester. Lester is a great FTI ambassador and will be in for what he comes up with, says Krista. What's up, Krista? Krista come and hang out at the Garlits Hall of Fame. Yeah, well, that's the thing about FTI, right? Big power, but also the consistency that you need. Cody Savage and name drop. I'm honored. There he is. What's up, Cody? How are you? Yeah, man, you get a name drop here. I like to think on WFO, the people that are behind the scenes get some credit and love occasionally. Join and support Joe and his show is great most of the time. Way to go, Earl. Earl's a Patreon, giving you the real deal. Most of the time it is great. Sometimes not so much. I'm not embarrassed to say. There's a day or two that we phone it in. Joe is a local announcer at Galat Motorsports Park. I truly appreciate you, says Mark. Thank you, Mark. Pure Pontiac, the only way, says Dragster Jeff. Right. Yeah, that was blasphemous. A-Fuel Funny Car. Yeah, they're coming. They're coming. Joe, where's the WFO studio located? Yes. Back when I was with XM Satellite Radio, the bigwigs over there built me this beautiful studio, and I have updated it to continue working out of my home, like so many in the broadcast arena do. Gatornationals, all long before the pandemic, worked out of my home studio since like 2006. Gatornationals is always a large crowd, so doesn't the NHRA come back twice like they do in Charlotte? So why doesn't the NHRA come back? Well, maybe because that would kill the crowd. So you mentioned that. I'd like to see it. I think that the state can support it. Yes, you would rob a little bit from the Gator Nationals, maybe. But we've got so many people. We're the third most populous state. We've got a lot of retirees with money and time. And you don't have another race anywhere closer than Charlotte, which is a considerable distance. I personally think that Gainesville could support a secondary race, maybe a bonus race, maybe something. But let's leave that to the NHRA bigwigs. Now, what was I annoyed about earlier? See, I got over it. I got triggered, and then I got over it. That's how it's supposed to work. Because, I don't want to drag this show down into the gutter. That tree is cluttering up the studio. Let me guess. He'll take it off my hands. George, got to keep the Pontiac power. Totally agree. Got to keep it Pontiac power. Yeah, you can't do that. Blasphemy. People always want LS swap, the Ford motor, and the Mustang like mine. Yeah, Eddie. You got to stay brand loyal. I know when I'm on the microphone and someone comes up and is brand loyal, olds and an olds, Pontiac and a Pontiac, that's worth something. But I also don't shame people who just want to race and they want to do it in the easiest, most affordable way. Krista says, like a winter series, head back down to Gainesville after the season ends outside of the NHRA point system for $1 million. Right, exactly. Something, Krista. But I think the market can support a second race, given how it's not going to be two like this, though. You're not going to have two Gator Nationals crowds. But I think it can support a second race. But I'll leave that to the NHRA to decide. That's not my business. That's their business. All right, guys. That is going to do it. Appreciate all of you for checking out the show. I don't know the schedule for later on in the week, so just subscribe to the show, enable push notifications, download a mobile application, and we'll let you know. Clearly, we're going to connect with Matt Hagan and Mike Salinas. We're going to connect with Troy Coughlin Jr. and Gaige Herrera. These things are happening. I would like to also speak with Justin Bond. It is my plan. We're going to try. And Spencer Hyde won the Drag Illustrated World Series of Pro Mod, scheduled to come on the show as well. We are in winter view mode. It's going to be great. The Q-Tip Nationals? What would you call that Gainesville race? At a buffet and casino. Look, I know you're joking. But this track and this venue has proven its crown jewel status. It was one of the best events that we've ever had. People loved it. And that's all you can say. That's people vote with their dollars. They went down there. Top Eliminator, sold out. Saturday, sold out. Friday and Sunday, like very close to sold out. Packed in there. That's all you can ask for. We're going on to Phoenix. That one is going to be great too. Last one. And it's sad, but maybe it can be saved. It's not over yet. Mark Kenton says he's a Patreon member now. Way to go, Mark. Just like fast. Thank you very much. How about No Problem Dragway getting upgraded? Great stuff. Nelson does a great job down there. Nelson from right here, South Florida. Was the manager of Palm Beach International Raceway for a while. And they were like, he's like, I got some really great ideas. And they're like, you're fired. We don't want great ideas. All right, guys. Hopefully you have a great day. WFO.